around and talk about money. It's the people who just sit around and talk about, sports and talk about fashion and talk about their houses and their cars. It's a people who feel comfortable, but they are comfortably numb. They are comfortably numb from the reality because they are heedless of that reality. But they don't really realize necessarily that there's a problem because they're not drinking or clubbing. And they feel that comfort, but within that comfort is heedlessness. It is not a focus on the realities of life. It is a running away from the realities of life. So when death comes, Allah says, لَقَدْ كُنْتَ فِي غَفْلَةٍ مِّنْ هَذَا فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. And so we have taken away فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ. We've removed the veil from your eyes. And so today your sight is keen. It's sharp. The problem is many of us have veils over our eyes. And what do we mean by veils over our eyes? It means that we are not really seeing things as they are. We are seeing the things which are insignificant as extremely significant. We are seeing things like how much money we have, what kind of car we drive, what kind of clothes we wear, what's in fashion, what are people saying, what are people thinking, what are people posting. These are the things which consume our lives. And those things which are actually insignificant become significant and most significant in our eyes. And then we have another problem. And that is those things which are most significant have become insignificant in our eyes. I'll give you an example which is relevant in this month that we are in now. I talked about it earlier today. What happens when we miss Fajr in Ramadan? Can someone share what happens when we miss Fajr? Well, first of all, it's the end of the world. Now, can someone tell me why is it the end of the world? Because you missed suhoor. Right? The terror, right? You woke up and you realize the sun is out. And immediately the terror that you feel is due to the fact that you missed suhoor. All right, now fast forward the other 11 months of the year. Now you miss Fajr. How do you wake up? Do you have the same terror? Let's just be real. No. In fact, maybe it's no big deal. Maybe you pray it when you feel like, or maybe you don't. What is the point here? The point is that we have made significant the fact that I have starved, the fact that I have deprived my stomach. That is what's significant to me. But the fact that I deprive my heart and my soul, this is insignificant to me. And so I have almost no reaction to the fact that I missed Fajr, as long as I didn't miss a meal. But if you deprive me of a meal, you deprive me of some roti, right? That's the end of the world. So this is what we have to understand. We are in a state where we see things lopsided. The things which are important to us are things which are actually insignificant. Somebody said something bad about you. This is the end of the world, right? Somebody's spreading some people are backbiting. People are thinking bad about you. This becomes something which maybe keeps me up at night. The fact that I lost some money. The fact that my business I didn't make as much. These are the things that keep us up at night. Somebody broke up with me. These are the things that keep us up at night. But we are not concerned with what are we going to do when we stand in front of Allah. And this is because we have veils over our eyes. We don't see the reality as it really is. And this reality becomes clear at the time of death. فَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. That on this day, when that veil is removed, your sight becomes keen. Now, what does that have to do with La ilaha illallah? Here's the thing about La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah is something that we have to live in order to be able to die with La ilaha illallah. You see, at the time of death, you want to understand what a person really, really lived for. If you want to understand what a person really, really loved, look at their dying words. You will learn a lot about a person by looking at what they say at the time of death. A person who lived their life for money, what they're going to be concerned about when they're dying is what's going to happen to their inheritance, what's going to happen to their money. A person who lived their life for power is going to be worried about what's going to happen with that status or that image or that power that they had. A person who lived their life with La ilaha illallah, only those people are allowed to say La ilaha illallah at the time of death. Because you cannot fool Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we have to constantly ask Allah and beg Allah to allow us to die in the best state. But in order to be able to be given that privilege, we have to live La ilaha illallah. What does it mean to live La ilaha illallah? It means that thing, and if we want to understand this statement, by the way, this statement is so much deeper than how it's usually translated. Typically, La ilaha illallah is translated as there's no God but Allah. What does that mean? It is such an insufficient translation. When you go and you really research the meaning of the word ilah, you understand the depth of this concept. You are saying, you are in fact not just saying, you are bearing witness. And by the way, one of the major sins is to bear false witness. So if you bear witness, you better be sure. And so you bear witness that there is nothing worthy of being an ilah except for God. This is what La ilaha illallah means. But then your next question should be, what does ilah mean? What is an ilah? But I pray to Allah. Yes, you may pray to Allah, but I make dua to Allah. That means that my ilah is Allah. Yes, you may pray to Allah and you may make dua to Allah, but what do you really love most? What you really love most is your business. What you really love most is your money. What you really love most is a specific person in your life. What you really love most is to be fashionable, to be beautiful to society. And that is why when you're faced with a decision, or rather when you are faced with a choice between what Allah says and what you love, you choose what you love. For example, if what I love most is money, then I will do whatever it takes to make more money, even when that means riba, even when that means selling alcohol, even when that means selling pork, because the thing that I love most is money. When what I love most is that I appear a certain way to society. I want to be beautiful. I want to be fashionable. I want society to think I'm attractive. Then when I am faced with a choice between what society says is beautiful and what Allah says is beautiful, which by the way, they are contradictory, aren't they? Because society, the concept of beauty in society, is it very modest? Not so much. In fact, it's the opposite of modesty. And so society has a standard of beauty and Allah has a standard of beauty. Allah says for me to wear hijab. Society says for me to show it, right? If you got it, show it. And so I am faced with a decision, and it will come down to what I love most. That's why this concept of La ilaha illallah is not just about what I pray to. It's not just about what I make dua to. It's about what I live for. It's about what is most important to me. And it is about absolute obedience. Here's the thing we have to keep in mind. You will become a slave to whatever you love most. You will become a slave to whatever you love most. So be very careful what you love most. If what you love most is your business, you are a slave to your business. And you will do anything necessary to make your business the profit go up. If you are a slave, if you love what you love most is money, then you become a slave to money. And you no longer own your money owns you. You become a slave to your money. This is why the companion is saying, I have come to free you. From the slavery to the slave. From slavery to money. From slavery to fashion. From slavery to other people. And bring you to slavery of the Lord of the slave. That's true freedom. But anytime we take something else and love it, as we should only love Allah, we become oppressed. We oppress ourselves and we become slaves to those things. You know, I heard some very depressing information, which is that I guess there's a trend going on of brothers not wanting to marry hijabi sisters. And I just want to talk about this phenomenon because it's a very strange kind of mentality. Because what's happening here is you have sisters who are, every single day they are struggling. This is mujahada. They are struggling against the tide of society in order to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in so doing, they are trying to fulfill the purpose of their creation. What is the purpose of our creation? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We have not created jinn and human beings except for one reason, which is to worship Allah. And worship, to enslave myself to Allah, means سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We hear and we obey. And so when we hear Allah say that we're supposed to dress a certain way, we hear and we obey. This is servitude. This is slavery. This is what it means to actually be free. Because when you enslave yourself to the Creator, you have freed yourself from slavery to anything else. You're not a slave to fashion anymore. You see, you're not a slave to what Cosmo is putting on the magazine cover anymore. You're not a slave to what is considered attractive by society. You are enslaving yourself to Allah and therefore freeing yourself. Now, for brothers to then come and actually say, I don't want to marry you because you are trying to fulfill the purpose of your creation, makes no sense. We really need to come back to what is our ultimate purpose. Are we so veiled by this life that we actually are seeing what is good as bad and what is bad as good? How is it that we can start to see things in their true reality? And the answer is, we have to work on this lump of flesh. Because as the Prophet ﷺ tells us, إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. In the body there's a lump of flesh. And if it is set right, the entire body is set right. وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. And if it is corrupted, the entire body is corrupted. أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبِ. Indeed, it is the heart.